Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Two Spot Monkeys Live. I'm Jim, joined as always by Tom. Tom, how are you doing this fine November day?
What's going on, Jim? No, this has been a great November here in the Midwest. I hope the same for you. I know we're both Westerners, but we're a little bit different geographically.
Kind of at the opposite sides of it.
yeah. You're on the western end of the Midwest, and on the eastern end, which is weird to say eastern end of the Midwest, but I think I am.
I think
It's been a great November. Lots of sun, really moderate temperatures. We had a 60+ degree day yesterday on November the 16th. Which is amazing. So I've been trying to be really intentional about not taking it for granted. Just really appreciating that I can walk outside with a thin shirt on, a thin long sleeve, and feel very comfortable on November the 16th.
Yeah, no, we've been the same way. We've approached 70 a couple of days, and I think even broken it a couple of days here in November. In fact, earlier this week, north of here, a couple hours, they hit 76. Which was 2 degrees away from the record, but still 76 in the middle of November. I mean, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's been very nice. Cool in the mornings, cool in the evenings, but very, very nice during the day. So absolutely not taking it for granted, I should say, enjoying every minute of it, and just being okay with the white stuff not showing up anytime soon. So
I know. I hear we're getting it. I hear here the forecast says next week, Wednesday into Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we've got some on Friday next week. We're not going to be here, but which is fine. Don't let us know too much because I don't want to have to come home and we bought a snowblower. We haven't put it together yet, so I don't have to do that. But yeah. So, anyways, weather on the 8s here with Two Spot Monkeys Live. So, hope it's good weather wherever you are listening as well.
I know. Weather on the 9s with the Two Spot Monkeys.
Right. Excuse me. Sometimes we start fantasy football, sometimes start our weather. We almost never start with pro wrestling, but eventually we get around to it. So, and today we will. Today's focus is head-to-head. We have Full Gear coming up on Saturday. So tomorrow, as we record this, but Saturday, whenever you happen to be listening to this. So we got Full Gear coming up. It's actually a really busy weekend of wrestling. Started off last night. Wrestling Revolver had a show out in LA. GCW's got a show. AEW's got Collision, Rampage, and Full Gear going on. It's a busy weekend. So I'm glad you're scoring, Tom. But and Revolver will come up again a little later on in this show, I believe. So we'll talk more about that then. I have a weird echo coming out of my speaker of my own voice. Okay, now it's gone. All right, that was weird. Sorry. It's like that's never happened before. So the head-to-head update, Tom, you have the standings up, I know, so I'll let you jump into those.
Yeah, as we enter this weekend and this event, we're both 55-22 for this segment. Again, we've been making picks since the beginning of July 2023, and we will wrap up in about a month and a half here at the end of December. Lots of events to go, kicking off with this big one. It's a 5 event stretch starting now?
4 or 5, yeah. We've got
it's 5. It's
here
5.
We've got Survivor Series, we've got Deadline, we've got Final Battle, and then World's End. So
yeah.
And first match for Final Battle has been announced as well. So we'll talk more about that as it comes. Sorry, when I clear my throat, I'm gonna try to mute most of the time when I do that, but and so far I haven't, but I'm gonna try to mute when I do that. Getting over a cold. I'm okay, everybody, I promise. So yeah, five events counting this one still to go. So being tied up with 5 to go is pretty awesome. We have 9 matches to pick here so far that have been announced. As Tom and I were talking just before we clicked record, we're recording this on Friday morning. So tonight during Collision and Rampage, which are both on Friday night this week because of the pay-per-view, we have no doubt they'll adjust or add more, probably especially to 0 Hour, since there's only 1 match right now for 0 Hour. And maybe another match or 2 for the pay-per-view, because right now there's only 8 actually scheduled for the pay-per-view, and that just seems really low for Tony Khan. So something tells me there'll be another couple coming this evening. So we won't pick those because we don't know what they are yet. So we'll just pick what we've got, and we will we'll get into that here. Tom is going to get to pick first because I had a better record at Crown Jewel, which was the last show, because of that Io Sky Bianca Belair match. So Tom will get the first pick. And here we go, 0 Hour, the ROH World Tag Title match. MJF, and I just put in TBA because it sure seems like somebody is going to be a partner for him the way they've been playing things up. I haven't seen all of Wednesday, so I don't know if that plays out more. I know nobody's been announced. But versus the Guns of Austin and Colton Gunn.
Yeah, so I'm not, I wish I didn't have to pick this match first because I feel like
I'm glad you do.
yeah, I feel like the vagueness of where things will go is too unpredictable. It's Samoa Joe has to be the person, whether he comes out with MJF at the start or not. It's got to be Samoa Joe. And the reason behind this is Samoa Joe is doing it to pursue another title shot with MJF. Then that begs the question later on, does Samoa Joe get involved here? And then later in the night when MJF is in his title match as an attempt to ensure that MJF remains the champion. I think MJF wants the title. I'm sorry, Samoa Joe wants the title, and he wants it from MJF. He doesn't. He's not said, I want the AEW title, period. He goes, I want to defeat MJF. It's a little bit indirect in that way. I really thought before kind of the way that things have played out behind the scenes that the Guns were definitely going to win the titles here. It made a lot of sense to me for them to win the titles here, to really, again, going back to what we talked about a few weeks ago, shifting gears and giving like the Ring of Honor titles, like people who can be regularly on Ring of Honor and be a focal point. Again, but the Guns are part of Bullet Club Gold, and that's a big component of AEW Collision. I'm pausing because I don't want to make this decision. I'm going to say that it's MJF and Samoa Joe, or MJF and TBA, because that's what we have, to retain the titles. I don't think that's the right move here. I think storyline-wise, that's why it's going to have to happen. And the whole idea is that however we're getting to Samoa Joe, MJF sometime. Again, I think we talked about it a little bit last week at the end of our segment. We talked about, World's End coming up, and who's your favorite MJF challenger?
Yeah, and they've announced winter is coming for an upcoming Dynamite, so that's another place where something like that could happen. Yeah, I've been waffling as well on this, and I think what makes the most sense to me as we record this morning, because part of me says Samoa Joe could come in, cost MJF and Adam Cole the tag titles, and then that's what makes MJF mad enough, to say, I'm going to give you your shot because I want to, kick your rear end or whatever. I'm trying to keep it PG here on the podcast. But I think it makes more sense because Joe the whole time has been saying, I'll help you keep those titles if you give me, my title shot. And so I feel like what makes the most sense, especially given how MJF's character has evolved, is for that to happen. Joe to come in and to be honest, forgetting storyline of that it's really MJF and Adam Cole who are the champs and Adam Cole's injured, all of it. If you just say there's a match between MJF and Samoa Joe and the Guns, MJF and Samoa Joe should win that match 9 times out of 10, probably, right now with where they're at. So I feel like the story is more likely Joe does what he said and then looks at MJF like, all right, I did my end. Time for you to hold up yours. And MJF says, okay, you got your shot at Winter is Coming or at World's End or at whatever. So yeah, I'm going MJF and TBA, which again, if it's anybody other than Samoa Joe, I'd be stunned, honestly. So there's that. I'm going to go with them as well. I was with you when this first got announced before Joe kind of that story evolved. I was like, oh, okay, they're going to put him on the Guns and finally get him off MJF and Adam Cole, but I don't think that's happening here. So the next match is the TBS title match. Chris Statlander defends in a 3-way against Julia Hart and Sky Blue. This one's pretty easy for me, to be perfectly honest. I think Chris Statlander has been a good TBS champion. In the ring, her promos aren't great, but in the ring, she's been. I like Chris Statlander a lot, but I think it's Julia Hart's time. I think they've been building Julia Hart really well. I think she has come a long way in the ring since she started with the Varsity Blondes. and of course her character work now with House of Black has really been great. I think Sky Blue probably is part of the reason that Statlander ends up losing, because they've been teasing, is Sky Blue under Julia Hart's control, and then Sky Blue blew the mist in Julia Hart's face. I think it's all been a ruse. I think Sky Blue is going to align with Julia, or at least cost Chris the match. Maybe she doesn't totally align with Julia. Maybe she says, no, I'm my own person, but, turns heel anyways. And I think Julia Hart wins the title here. I was first Fantasy Wrestling League mention of the day. I was disappointed that I was behind Annette in the waiver orders when I saw her ad, because I couldn't block it, because I wanted to pick her up as well for Julia Hart.
So Julia Hart and Lee Johnson got married. We talked about that a month or so ago, and we were like, they're going to be gone for a while. Well, that being gone a while wasn't really a while. It was
like a week or two.
Yeah, it felt really fast. They were already back on TV, and so interesting in that way. Yeah, so like I like your theory, and I did feel like especially with the eye paint, that like Sky Blue is definitely going to align with House of Black and Julia Hart. However, like them being here in the same match, it seems like they're both going and gunning for the same title. Why would Sky Blue be subservient to Julia Hart and let her get the title? So that's an interesting kind of dynamic for me. And again, we'll see what happens. I thought Statlander was going to retain, but I do like your thinking and the idea of have her beat against the odds and lose the title makes her look stronger than just a straightaway loss, which there's nothing wrong with a straightaway loss at all. And then Statlander would, I think, if she loses, move on to facing and going for the AEW Women's World title, which would make a lot of sense with how I think that's going to play out. I didn't want to pick Julia Hart, but since we're tied, I don't really want to go down one. I'm going to match your pick and say Julia Hart as well, just in case you're right. And this is going to be one
take a chance
when we do our pick'ems for our, again, Fantasy Wrestling League. This is going to be a very low confidence point, and I may not pick Julia Hart there, but we'll see.
All right, the strategy comes out already. 5 shows left. Tom, you get the first pick on the AEW World Tag Team Title match. Ricky Starks and Big Bill, who a couple of weeks ago I forgot were even the tag champs, defend against LFI of Roosh and Dralistico, FTR of Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, and House of Black of Malachi Black and Brody King, who call their tag team something else, but it's been marked as House of Black on the graphic, so I can't. It's the Kings of the
Black Throne.
Black Throne. Thank you.
Yes, they also are the current PWG tag team champions. Yes. I don't know when the last time they defended those titles were, but they are indeed those champions.
I'm 100% sure they have, and PWG's announced they're not running the rest of the year. I don't know if you saw that, Tom. Due to some health things, it sounds like with Super Dragon's wife, which best wishes to them, obviously. But they'll be back next year. So yeah, I don't know if they've ever defended them, to be honest. I'll look that up while you're making your pick here, because now I'm curious.
Yeah, so it's funny. So back to the previous match where I had to like waffle and I'm literally matching you for the strategy. When I looked at the lineup coming into today a few days ago, I said, okay, when we get to Friday in this conversation, there's probably like 6 matches I'm feeling really good about. There's 3 where I'm like, I just don't know. Well, that last one was one of the ones where I wasn't sure. This one I actually do feel really confident about. I like that it's a 4-way. I think they've quickly built it up, so it's appropriate. I'm not a fan of the moving parts here. I don't know. It's okay. I would prefer FTR getting a rematch unless there's more to come, which I do think that's probably why it's not a 1-on or a 2-on-2 rematch. Ricky Starks and Big Bill are retaining straight away. Who takes the pinfall loss here is going to be really interesting. Probably Dralistico, but LFI is trying to just get back and get a little bit of rub. But the cool thing, again, LFI, House of Black, and a few could be fun. I'm not back on the LFI bandwagon. I'd be very pro House of Black if that were to be a trios deal. So yeah, Starks and Big Bill retain.
It's funny, when this first got announced a week or so back, I had a brief moment where I was like, they've kind of been pushing LFI. I wonder if they're going to flip the belts to LFI and really, really try to elevate Rush and Drilistico. And then I looked through and I was like, okay, so who's taking the fall? And I was like, yeah, it's Drilistico, so I can't have them win if I think he's getting pinned. And the more I thought about that, yeah, I'm with you. I don't see FTR winning them back in a 4-way. If they win them back, I think it should be a straight up match. House of Black, I'd love to see them as tag champs, to be perfectly honest, but I don't see that right now. And again, Malachi Black and Brody King, by the way, they have defended the PWG tag titles twice. July was the last time at 19 over Aussie Open. And they also defended against the Workhorsemen back in November of 21. I'm sorry, July of 22 was the last time they defended those tag titles, not July of this year. July of 22 was the last time they defended those. But Black and King haven't done a ton of tag work in AEW, so that would be a little, they could put the belts on them. But yeah, pretty quickly right after I had the thought of like, oh, maybe it's LFI, I was like, nah, Starks and Big Bill. And I feel like them overcoming the odds of 3 other teams gives them more to, brag about and go on about until they finally get their comeuppance. And I feel like their comeuppance needs to be 2-on-2 against whoever when they lose them. So I'm with you. Starks and Big Bill are going to keep those tag belts, I feel like, on Saturday night. Speaking of what might be next for Starks and Big Bill, then, is the title shot versus the Golden Jets future, the Young Bucks versus Kenny and Chris Jericho. So I waffled on this for a minute or 3, and then I came back and went, okay. I have not seen Dynamite, as I mentioned, so I know who wins the street fight. So I kind of feel like the Golden Jets don't need to be a thing anymore. And if the Young Bucks are going full on heel, whether that's with the Don Callis family, as you've surmised before, that could be happening, or just on their own, heelish, them winning this and ending the Golden Jets makes a lot of sense. I realize that could set up a heel Young Bucks versus a heel Ricky Starks and Big Bill, but actually that could be kind of entertaining too. 2 really cocky teams, trying to outdo one another, could be really fun too. I don't care to see Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho get a tag title shot, to be honest. I don't know that I'm dying to see the Young Bucks get one either, but they've already got one, so it is what it is. So I'm going with the Young Bucks here to win the match and end the Golden Jets, because I think the Golden Jets thing, now that maybe the overarching Don Callis versus Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho story may have completed, or at least can go to the back burner, you could always come back to it. I feel like that's going to be one that could always come back. Maybe has run its course. Again, I haven't seen how that plays out though on Wednesday, so I'm a little bit blind on that with my pick.
Yeah, so the Don Callis family feud, it's really weird because it's brought Jericho and Omega together, but they're really kind of independent stories. And so, like, I don't think you need to keep Omega and Jericho together at all to continue those stories, but I don't think both need to be involved. So that's the interesting component here. When I thought about, if Jericho and Omega were to win this match, the idea of Omega, Jericho versus Starks and Bill, again, remember earlier this year, there was a big feud between Jericho and Ricky Starks. It elevated Ricky Starks in a way, but it also didn't. Ricky Starks has been, actually, if we were to do like an end of the year kind of recap, I think reviewing Ricky Starks' story for 23 would be really interesting, because when you look at like the spots he's been in and what should have elevated him and what has elevated him versus what probably should have, I think that's really interesting. We're not going to do that today, but I think Jericho comes to mind, CM Punk comes to mind, Bryan Danielson comes to mind, and then this tag title reign that they're in now. I still hold on to the fact that I believe the Young Bucks are treating this title shot in the fold as like a Money in the Bank-esque shot. It may not play out that way, but I think that's how they're going to do it, especially if they're heels. So I don't think that it matters that Ricky Starks and Big Bill, from both of our perceptions, retain. And also, I'll match you here. I do think the Young Bucks are winning because I don't think Omega and Jericho were long for this duo. I think that potentially you now, because Kota Ibushi has signed full time in AEW, which has seemed like it's been 6 months in the waiting, he and Omega as a team against the Young Bucks make a lot of sense. And again, the title shot doesn't need to be in line. The Bucks can retain that, but they can Omega can be committed to going, okay, well, Young Bucks, you have definitely an attitude change. I want to set you straight. And since I can't be with Jericho, I've got now Ibushi to do that. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe it doesn't. Either way, Young Bucks win the match here. They retain their title shot, and they end the Golden Jets run as a tag team.
And Ibushi was announced as signing after Wednesday night, and apparently there's another signing because the roster is not big enough. But there's another signing of a world-renowned wrestler who everyone respects and will love.
I think it's most everyone respects, which is really interesting language. Like, why would you even put that out there?
There's like 4 people though that hate this person. So,
come on, like, hello.
So, and they're going to sign their contract live on Full Gear apparently. So, I have read reports that say it is not Mercedes Moné. I thought Mercedes Moné would make a lot of sense there. I've read reports, I should say, that say people in AEW are saying it's not Mercedes Moné. Now, they could also be lying. So, because they don't want the cat out of the bag. So, we'll see. I think she would make a lot of sense. And I went back and read the tweet, and it's very intentional, I feel, that they did not use a gender in any of their wording of that. They didn't say he. They said they, actually, which could mean something or could not in 2023, obviously. But I thought it was more of an attempt to not use a gender. So we'll see. We'll see who that is. We're not picking that, but we'll see. Tom, you get the first pick on the Texas Death Match, perhaps, if it comes up.
It was there and it was gone.
And there it is. All right, good. Gotta love computers. Hangman Page versus Swerve.
Have you seen their segment from Wednesday by chance?
I have not yet.
Okay, it's one of the best things from Wednesday night. So definitely make sure that's priority viewing. I thought it was great. Paige even showed up and attacked Swerve last night at Wrestling Revolver. As you mentioned, we might talk about it. That may have been the thing you wanted to say, maybe not. I don't know. This is totally Hangman Page all the way here. Because Swerve won the first match, if I'm not mistaken. Again, our crackpot research team, we always love to come with the facts. But yeah, Hangman Page all the way. This is going to be awesome, bloody, brutal. Probably one of the most anticipated matches for me on this card.
Yeah, we talked last week about what our most anticipated matches were, and both of us talked about the international title match, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And I'm just now realizing I'm going to have to make my pick first on it, and I hate that. But I think this might have overtaken it, to be perfectly honest, as my most anticipated match. And I love that they put the Texas Death Match stipulation on it. I think that works, especially with Hangman Page, and the feud they've done here so far, which potentially culminates. I don't know what you do after Texas Death Match if this isn't the end of it. Although if Hangman Page wins, then it's 1-1, and it feels like it's got to go to a Hangman Swerve 3 at some point, World's End or something. So maybe you do. And maybe it is just, okay, I beat you, you beat me in a Texas Death Match, but now we're going to do it straight up. Maybe we're going to do 2 out of 3 falls, something like that, to prove who the better man is, kind of thing. That would make some sense. But Hangman's winning this one. As much as I love Swerve and putting Swerve over in a feud like this, and he might ultimately end up going over if this isn't done. Hangman, I don't want to say Hangman needs the win because he'd be fine if he didn't, but Hangman's getting the win. That just makes the most sense here. And it's going to be a barn burner. I mean, that match of the night, it has match of the night written all over it. And that's saying something on a card with, a number of matches that I think will vie for that award, so to speak. So yeah, this is one. My plans have changed now on Saturday. My trivia booking got canceled, so I'm actually free Saturday night. So we'll see. I don't know yet what that has meant for my home life plans, whether that'll change things there. But if I'm free Saturday night, I might just get to see the show after all. on Saturday night. So Tom, and you had some conflicts.
So no conflicts that I know of right now. It's just it's the making the decision to go and watch it
And
at the theater.
Is the theater showing it?
The theater is showing it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. 20. I mean, it's hard to pass $25 to get into a theater and check this out, right? Like it's a comfortable setting, big screen, good audio. Not the comfort of your own house, but yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna be a game time decision as it relates to Full Gear tomorrow night.
There you go. Out of curiosity, and then we'll get back into picks. How many, like when you've gone to the theater, I believe the very first time you went, it was you and like one or two other people. Has that attendance picked up at all at the theater, or is it still pretty sparse?
Yeah, so I want to say I've gone twice, maybe 3 times. Okay. The last time I went, was that Double or Nothing? I feel like it was Double or Nothing, but it might have, yeah. Oh no, it was Worlds Collide, and it was a decent. I mean, the theater was nowhere near full, right? Because wrestling fans don't come out at night. I'm just kidding. It was decent. There was probably a good 20, 25 people there.
Okay, cool. Cool. And do they cheer like they're at the event?
Not really. Like there was clapping and like some audible like pops, if you will. I think people like get in that mindset of it's a dark theater. Am I allowed to do this? Right. So
sure. Yeah. No, I just wondered because like my frame of reference for this is WrestleMania 3 and 4. I watched on closed circuit TV back when that was the thing before pay-per-view became the big thing. And so I was at the Rockford Metro Center for WrestleMania 3, and I was at Coronado Theater in Rockford for WrestleMania 4, which is a much smaller venue. And people were cheering and chanting and things just like, as though it was kind of like me watching NFL football, coaching through the screen, and people were cheering like the rest of us could hear them. So it was kind of, I just wondered if that still is that way. Because it's just closed circuit.
Yeah, juxtapose that. So back in the day, like early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, BW3, Buffalo Wild Wings, they always would have the WWE pay-per-views. And like that was like standing room only a lot of times. And there was always a lot of like response and audible feedback to that. So again, to your point about and then coaching through the screen, I am incredibly audible no matter where I'm at when I'm watching football.
Yep, absolutely. Katie doesn't understand. She goes, "Why are you yelling at them? Because they're not listening. That's why." So
to me or the coach,
right? If they'd start doing what I'm telling them to, I'd be much nicer. So, all right. Well, I have the first pick with the international title match of Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley. This is maybe my biggest coin flip of the night because I can make a valid argument for both. Mox is kind of I don't know. I don't want to call him the Roman Reigns of AEW because that's definitely not right. The Seth Rollins, I guess, to use another Shield member, or the John Cena. He's the guy who, if they need somebody for a big match, he's their guy. Jon Moxley's their guy. And he delivers every single time. I think when you're having conversations about best wrestler in the world, now I'm talking best overall, as far as in-ring, promos, believability, all of those things. So technical wrestling, of course, you get into the Zack Sabre Jr.'s and the Bryan Danielsons and all of those folks. But just overall total package, sorry, Lex Luger, I think Moxley has to be in that conversation. Will Ospreay is in that conversation. Some other people are in that conversation. But I think Moxley has to be in the best in the world conversation when you're talking overall. Orange Cassidy, frankly, for me, has done way better in AEW than he had any right ever to when he first came in. I was like about Orange Cassidy when he came in. He's a ha-ha guy. He does the slow kicks. He does the whatever. He does the pockets. He does the thing. But he delivers. He absolutely delivers in the ring. The characters is fine with me. I won't say it's my favorite character in wrestling by any means, but it's fine. and he delivers in the ring, and he knows how to do big matches. So this is going to be awesome. I just said Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland could win match of the night. This easily could win match of the night too. Again, there's 4 or 5 matches that could easily win match of the night on this card, as is usually true on an AEW pay-per-view. I go back and forth on this, and I kind of wish I've seen just the start of the tag match from Wednesday, so I haven't seen how that culminates and all of that. I go back and forth on this because there's somewhat of the story of Orange Cassidy has to beat Mox. He wants to get that win. And then there's also the whole thing with the international title we talked about last week of Moxley was never supposed to lose that belt. He got hurt. They called the audible. I think he called the audible to put it on Rey Fenix. Then Rey Fenix has visa issues, so they had to flip it over to Orange Cassidy. And now we're back here. It would make a lot of sense, and I would totally get it if Moxley wins the belt here and they get back on whatever road they were on before the Moxley Phoenix match happened, and they had to, pivot back at was that Grand Slam, I think, yeah. But I could see Cassidy getting the win too. I'm going with Mox because that's just been my gut. But I won't be shocked if I'm wrong on this. Talking about those confidence points again for Fantasy Wrestling League, this one's going to be pretty low for me just because I think it is a real pick 'em.
I was hoping you were going to go Orange because Mox is my pick as well. Really cool spot happened. Sorry to give you a spoiler for Wednesday. Cassidy hits the orange punch and Mox absorbs it. It doesn't do what Orange Cassidy knows it should do, and it leaves you questioning, kind of oh my gosh, what will he do now? And Mox even trash talks him after the match on the mic briefly. So even more anticipation for this happens. So I think people are going to be really behind Orange Cassidy without a doubt, which is awesome. Again, everything he said about Jon Moxley is true, and he's transcendent in terms of he might be the bad guy, air quotes, in this match. He's not a bad guy. And the way the Blackpool Combat Club is, they've been bleeding into both spaces. So yeah, I do think we rekindle the story of the Jon Moxley international title reign starting on Saturday night.
Yeah, I agree, obviously. You get the first pick in maybe what is the easiest pick, I think, for both of us, Hikaru Shida versus Toni Storm.
Yeah, this has been fun. I've really loved the Toni Storm character build. I think it's interesting that they went and put the title back on Shida to get us to this match because there's a lot of history here. So that's smart and maybe undersold storytelling. So I appreciate that. I want to name that. It's Toni Storm all the way here. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. Whatever she does and whoever she faces, be it Chris Statlander, should she lose the TBS title, or any other potential challengers, the stories and the way that those things will evolve will be a lot of fun to watch develop. But yeah, Toni Storm all the way here.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see too. Do we see Mariah May, who debuted two weeks ago on Dynamite in a backstage interview? And I don't know if she has anything to do this week, but she would seem very excited to meet Toni Storm. Almost wonder if it could turn into a little bit of the Mickie James Trish Stratus story from years ago. That was just my read on that very first interview. I don't know a lot about Mariah May, other than it seems like there's a lot of excitement about her signing. I mean, she's got a good look. I don't mean that to sound sexist or whatever, but I don't know anything about her in the ring. I've heard a lot of good things. I am interested to see what she's got when it comes to in-ring, because people seem to be very excited about her. So seems like they're gonna somewhat partner her with Toni Storm. I wonder if it's going to be the Mickie James Trish Stratus or a little more of the Athena Billy Starks, the minion in training. I mean, obviously they wouldn't call her that, but Toni Storm's lackey or the person who does her light work for her, or
the understudy.
The understudy. There you go. That makes sense. The understudy. Yes. I can leave Luther out of it personally, but whatever. They brought him in. Toni Storm's winning this match. I've just got a really long way to make my easiest pick of the day, which is Toni Storm's winning this match. If Shida wins this match, it'll be jaw on the floor for me. I don't think that makes any sense, and I think Storm is over like Rover right now. So strike while the iron's hot, on that one with Toni, and and good for her reinventing, her and Tony Khan and whoever's worked on this character for reinventing the Tony Storm character from where she came in to the Outcast to now. Good on them. That's really cool that they've been able to do that. We go to the 6-man tag team title match of Sting, Darby Allin, Adam Copeland against Christian Cage, Nick Wayne, and Luchasaurus. So I've waffled on this one just slightly. I think I know. I mean, I know where I'm going with it, but and the only reason I've waffled on it is, eventually we're getting to Adam Copeland versus Christian Cage 1-on-1, and then you got to think after that they reconcile and we get the tag team run, or tag team dream match run or whatever they do with them. And I kind of think Adam Copeland versus Christian Cage is at World's End, the end of the year here. They could stretch it out. I mean, they could stretch that thing out all the way to Double or Nothing if they wanted to. I don't think you need to. So there was a moment where I was like, so does Christian Cage's team go over to set that up? And I don't think it does. I think probably what happens is Christian Cage leaves Nick Wayne to the Wolves or something like that. And, Sting, Darby, and Adam Copeland get the win, but Christian Cage is able to say, well, you didn't beat me. So because that's what a good father would do, right? Leave his children to the wolves and then say, well, you didn't beat me. And I love how Nigel just plays into this Christian Cage character when he's on commentary. It's just fun to me. Nigel is so good on the mic and so good as a commentator. I really don't think, this is an aside here, they didn't need to add Tony Schiavone to Collision. Tony's fine, but I really like the Kevin Kelly and Nigel team, with just two of them, but I digress. Whatever. Back to this match, though. Sting, Darby, and Adam Copeland. Sting's not losing on pay-per-view until probably at Revolution. He probably loses there. Maybe. He might not, but he probably loses there. I could see him wanting to put Darby or somebody over with that last match. But until then, Sting ain't losing on pay-per-view. So Sting, Darby, and Adam Copeland.
Yeah, same pick for me. There's no way that these guys lose. When Sting takes a loss, to your point, it's going to be at Revolution in his final match. When Adam Copeland takes a loss, it's going to mean something big. And I don't think that's here. It's too early for that to happen. So the one part, and I'm going to continue to be interested in watching this develop, is Adam Copeland has been really adamant in a lot of what he said to Christian about Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus being the ones that are going to end up turning on him, which is so interesting because why does Adam Copeland feel so strongly about that? I'm gonna be really interested to see, like, is that like going to bear itself out in the story in the next 3-6 months, or is that just Adam Copeland trying to be a true friend and perceive what could happen? Yeah, because Christian Cage is such a great heel right now. Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus turning on him wouldn't make him a de facto babyface to me because he's just so hateable.
Right. No, I think it would make Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus the babyfaces if they did that, honestly.
Right.
Yeah. I think this will be really fun. All 6 of them are super talented. I think using Nick Wayne in 6-man and tag team matches right now is probably better for Nick Wayne. I still think singles wise, he's good, but now that he's at this level and working with this caliber of people, it does to me show a little bit where he's still got work to do. Maybe it was a little easier not to notice it when he's in the ring with people that are kind of at his level or maybe just a little above. You're in the ring with Sting and Adam Copeland and Christian Cage now, and nothing against Darby and Luchasaurus there, but Sting, Adam Copeland, and Christian Cage are 3 bona fide Hall of Famers. You're in the big leagues now, boy. So I think this is good for his development. And I think Nick Wayne rubbing shoulders with guys like these, the sky is the limit for that kid as we move forward. And he's so young. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool for him. All right. Well, that means, Tom, you get the first pick on our main event in the evening, MJF versus Jay White. And I'm going to ask you a second question with this, not only for your pick, but do we get the devil revealed on Saturday night is a question.
So my pick is MJF, and I think we do get the devil revealed. The question is again, who is the devil, right? Because there are so many people, there are so many players here. You've got Jay White, and you've got the entire Bullet Club Gold. You've got the Acclaimed, you've got Adam Cole, you've got Next Strong, and maybe you've got someone we don't even know about yet. So there's a lot of stuff going on here.
All right, let me throw it out there because some people are crazy. Is it CM Punk?
No, it's not CM Punk. You don't fire somebody for a cause and then 2 months later, you're like, well, we've reconciled. Let's go. But that would be like a holy bleep moment if that were to be the case. It's
maybe
not
one of the biggest in wrestling history, to be
honest. Right. Yep. So, no, like this has been a really, so I appreciate that right out of the bat from the last pay-per-view to this, they were really clear about naming it was MJF versus Jay White straight away. And then the way they've built it, it has been really multi-layered. Sometimes some people may think that's really like confusing storytelling, or it's like creative storytelling to the point where you just don't know where it's going to go next. And so like you're really locked in. I think I'm 60-40 towards the latter part of that. It has been a little busy and hard to follow at times, but I think it's still been overall very good. So I'm excited to see what happens or hear what happens if I don't see on Saturday night. But MJF retains. The minute they announced World's End in Long Island, it was like a no-brainer that MJF was going to win to me, because him being from Long Island, he's got to defend the title there. Whether he wins and again, I can't imagine him not turning the calendar into 24, still being AEW champion.
Yeah. I agree, and yet I think it'll be interesting to see depending on who he defends against. Because so MJF wins this match. MJF wins this match and keeps the belt, or gets the belt back, I guess, in physical possession standpoint, since Jay White has had it. Man, Jay White has shown, not that you or I had any doubts, obviously, because we know who Jay White is and what he can do, but top of the card player. And the thing is, if the stories are right that you hear from Fightful and other places, he was ready to go to WWE and they dropped the ball and never got him an offer. So he moved over to AEW. Like, Jay White is a top of the level main event player. And this was back before the merger. So, some things were hung up around the merger, but like, I understand there was a merger going on, but how do you not sign somebody like Jay White if he's wanting to come there? If all those stories are the way that I understood them, I mean, he was ready to roll. Like, he could be going into one of your top programs at WrestleMania this year. I mean, easily, if he was in WWE. He's awesome. I love Jay White. Probably the one member of Bullet Club Gold that I actually enjoy when he gets on the TV. The other three, I know they're supposed to annoy me, and boy, they do a good job of it. But MJF's going to retain the title here, absolutely, to me. As far as the Devil and whether the Devil's real, I feel like it's time. I guess it all depends on health. So the story from Fightful Select this week, from Fightful and Fightful Select this week, has been that the people who are under the masks, and there were 4 last week, not 3, Tom, who attacked the Acclaim. The people who are under those masks and under the Devil mask are apparently the people who will play those roles. Famously, back when Retribution started, WWE didn't even know who was going to play the roles, so they just threw random people out there. Gargano was under the mask one night. Ciampa was under it, with him the one night. Different folks who had nothing to do with Retribution were under those hoods at different points because they had no real plan. AEW apparently has a plan, and those people have been under it. That statement alone, if true, just solidifies my belief that Adam Cole is the Devil, because we haven't seen the Devil except for that one time at the venue. The Devil now has always been via video,
pre-recorded. Yeah.
Right. So that if that's the case, that it's the people under, then one of two things: either it's Adam Cole and I'm right, or they have done a great job of making me believe I'm right. Which kudos to them if they reveal somebody else and it's not him.
Very interesting. Roderick Strong in the wheelchair on Wednesday night says he's the Devil as he points to Adam Cole on the screen.
Really?
So he does, yeah. So and he's talking about MJF, but he goes, he's the Devil, and like and it's Cole on the phone through the TV screen. So again, maybe nothing, maybe something, maybe everything.
Right. Yeah, I think it's Adam Cole, and I think it's Bennett Taven and Strong, and I've said that all along. And it sounded from the last update I heard like Kyle O'Reilly is not anywhere close. So maybe it's not Kyle O'Reilly, in which case I'm very interested to see who that fourth person is, because that one is really up in the air to me as to who that could be. So yeah, I kind of hope we get the reveal because I'm ready for it. But they could drag this out longer if they want to, or if they need to, because depending on, Cole did have some surgery, depending on what the recovery time of that is, he could be ready to come back now. He might be, still weeks or months away. Who knows? They can drag this out if they have to, but I'm kind of ready for the reveal. And then if you go to Adam Cole and Adam Cole and MJF, excuse me, at World's End, then I think there's a strong chance that MJF does not enter 24 as the world champion, because I think Cole wins that belt when that time happens, whatever that is. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to Full Gear. I hope we get to see it, but we'll just see. If I don't, it's fine. But since things have changed and I actually have at least a chance, where before I didn't, maybe I'll get a chance to watch it on Saturday night. So.
We're chalk across the board. So there'll be no change in standings a week from today, which we won't be meeting a week from today because it'll be Black Friday and post-holiday. So we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about our ideas, our thoughts, our reflections on Full Gear. And, we'll be making Survivor Series picks online next week too. So
So I'll put those up on our Twitter as soon as both Tom and I have put them on our fantasy league. We just use those as our picks then for here when we can't. So yeah, I'll put those up on our Twitter. Be sure to follow us at 2 Spot Monkeys on Twitter X or whatever it's called now. And I'll have our Survivor Series picks on there. That looks like a fun card too, to be perfectly honest. And that one I definitely won't get to see on Saturday. Maybe I'll see it Sunday night. We're coming back Saturday and Sunday from being in Wisconsin, Illinois for Thanksgiving. So yeah, I definitely won't see it live. I might catch a little bit at the hotel, depending on what time we get in and that sort of thing. But yeah, Survivor Series looks fun to me. So big heel turn finally happened on Monday night. So we'll see where that all leads for things at Survivor Series. And then we get into December. It's crazy to think we're already almost to December of this year, but here we come. It's time. So, and we'll have 3 big shows in December to pick matches for as well. So anything else, Tom?
Well, yeah. So the other big AEW news from the last week, at least for me, was the announcement of the Continental Classic round robin tournaments. So just interested. I know there's not a lot of details out about that yet, other than Bryan Danielson's in it, which is fantastic, and that there will be the finals at World's End. But again, being that it's a round robin tournament, do you kind of see this like the G1 to an extent, like 2 different blocks with maybe like 4 guys in each?
I think they said it's 12 competitors.
Okay, so 6 in each. Cool.
Yeah,
okay.
I think it'll be 2 blocks, 6 in each, which makes sense because then you get 5, opponents for each person over the 5 or 6 weeks. I think it's great because it gives stakes. I think it'll give us some really interesting and good matches. I'm very interested to hear who the other 11 are. And I wonder if we won't at least start to learn about more of those competitors tonight, perhaps even on Collision, and then maybe they reveal the full blocks at Full Gear. That would make some sense. Yeah, Danielson being in it. I mean, so, you're going to get 5 Bryan Danielson matches at least, maybe 6 if he wins his block. So you get Block A and Block B winners versus each other, at World's End for the championship final. I assume they mean the championship of the tournament.
Yeah,
please don't tell me they're creating a new belt.
I didn't get that sense at all.
I didn't either. Yeah, I didn't either. So, yeah, but I mean, you would have to think that person would be in line for a world title shot after winning a tournament like this, overcoming 11 other top competitors. I'm curious who Tony Khan said 12 top competitors. And obviously Bryan Danielson is a huge name to start. I'm curious to see who the other ones will be. You got to figure there'll be 1 or 2 who probably go 0-5 in their block, and I don't know, but I would love to say, let's fantasy book out our blocks. We didn't have any time to really do that. I hope Daniel Garcia gets in it because they seem to be wanting to push him a little more seriously as a little more serious competitor, but who still does his little dance. That's fine.
And he's been taking a lot of losses. So
he has, and my only fear is if you put him in this and you have him go 0-5, that's not good for him. Unless that's the story. Unless your story is the losses pile up and then he snaps or something. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think him rubbing elbows again with top competitors, depending on who else would be in his block, could be really good for him. You and I are both big Daniel Garcia fans, so I don't think you'd tell me that I'm wrong in saying I hope he's one of the 12.
No, it'd be awesome, even though I dropped him in fantasy wrestling. No.
Yeah, right.
Jack Perry would be a good guy to reintroduce here, too. So
sure.
We'll see.
I would think you're going to get, out of those 12, you're going to get probably, counting Danielson, at least 3 Blackpool Combat Club members. I would think Claudio and Mox would both be in it probably, which would be fun because if there's 3 of them, then at least 2 of them are in the same block. So you're going to get a Blackpool Combat Club versus Blackpool Combat Club match, which would be fun. And it would be right up their alley to be able to say, yep, we bleed together, so let's do this.
I'm going to replace Mox with Wheeler Yuta. This is a chance for Wheeler Yuta to break out because Mox is going to be international champion. So don't put a champion in here.
Well, that's true because you got to either beat the champion or it becomes a little predictable if they just keep winning. So, yeah.
Well,
so
I'm sure when we're back in 2 weeks, I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about, not just with Full Gear Fallout, but probably that tournament as well.
I was just going to look. They announced the Continental Classic, and it'll begin on November 22nd. So it will have begun by that point that we're back talking here. It begins next week, actually, on Dynamite. So yes, I would expect absolutely then by the end of this weekend, whether it's Collision or Full Gear, we get the full blocks. So come back in 2 weeks, and we'll be talking about where we stand in the Continental Classic. I almost said Continental Collision. That was weird. And feedback or fallout from Full Gear and from Survivor Series. It's going to be a packed show here in 2 weeks. I can already tell. So everybody have a great Thanksgiving. Again, we'll be off next week because of the holiday, but we will be back at it in 2 weeks, back here at Two Spot Monkeys Live.